Hey guys, Derek here. Welcome back to the channel, or welcome for the first time if you are new. We are back with a movie reaction, and this is for Oppenheimer. I know I am so late to watching this. This came out in theaters the same day as Barbie did. And I watched Barbie on the channel back in September. So it's been a minute. Now, granted, Oppenheimer had a lot longer of a wait until it got to like on demand or whatever, you know, streaming where you could purchase it. And even still, I'm behind on watching it, but I am very excited. From what I know, this is like a 3.5 hour like political biopic about Oppenheimer, obviously, in the development of the atomic bomb. Oppenheimer is played by Cillian Murphy, who is incredible. He's been in so many Christopher Nolan films. He's practically like the main character of the Christopher Nolan universe. And he's apparently fantastic. I know Robert Downey Jr. is in this movie, and I've seen a couple other faces that I recognize. Overall, I'm pretty excited to watch this. I generally consider myself a little bit of like a history buff. Like I enjoy history as a whole. And the topic and the moral implications of the development of the atomic bomb is particularly interesting. There are a lot of different factors that went into this, and the moral complications of what they did and why, and it's just, I find it very interesting. So I'm super pumped to check out this film. So before we do that, if you end up enjoying this reaction, please leave a like on the video. It means a lot to me. If you're new here or you find yourself coming back often, hit subscribe, ring the bell so you're notified when I upload. And then if you're interested in seeing the full-length reaction, consider checking out my Patreon. That is linked in the description down below, or joining YouTube memberships. Either way, you just sync up your own copy of the movie and you can watch along with me. I'm watching this on Prime Video, so that's where you can find that. I don't know if there's different versions, but that's where I'm watching it. If you find that something you're interested in, your support can mean the world. But other than that, strap in, because we're going to be checking out Oppenheimer. Holy cow. Prometheus stole fire from the gods and gave it to man. For this he was chained to a rock and tortured for eternity. Is Oppenheimer supposed to be Prometheus in this story?
Dr. Oppenheimer.
Oh, I also know they flip between color and black and white.
As we begin, I believe
in
you
this
have a
film,
statement to read into the record.
To like signify which things are objective and which things are subjective.
Oppenheimer still divides America. The committee's going to want to know where you stood.
Interesting.
Admiral Strauss, this is a formality. President Eisenhower's asked you to be in his cabinet. The Senate really has no choice but to confirm you.
And if they bring up Oppenheimer?
Oh, wait. Okay, who is this?
Who'd want to justify their whole life?
Know historically who this man is.
I was homesick, emotionally immature, troubled by visions of a hidden universe.
Jesus. I want to know how they made these visuals, because I heard they didn't use like VFX or CGI or whatever.
Royce Oppenheimer, have you had any sleep?
Is that Jarvis?
I need to go to the lecture, sir.
Why?
It's Niels Bohr.
Bro, what? Are you gonna kill your professor for that? That's a bold move. God, these visuals are insane already. And we haven't even gotten to the bomb part of it.
You all right? Niels, meet J. Robert Oppenheimer.
Freaking Kenneth Branagh.
Göttingen. Born. Get to Germany, study under Max Born, learn the ways of theory. I'll send word.
Wormhole.
Just takes the apple from him.
Can you hear the music, Robert?
Yes, I can.
Damn. He almost just killed one of the leading physicists in the world. The editing is so interesting already. The music is so good too. Holy cow. I don't even know like what to say. This is just visually an onslaught.
Admiral Strauss, I'm interested in your relationship with Dr. J.
It is
Robert
who I thought it was.
Oppenheimer. You met him in 1947.
Dr. Oppenheimer.
An honor.
Mr. Strauss.
It's pronounced Strauss.
Straws.
I'm told he's there most afternoons. You know, I've always wondered why you didn't involve him in the Manhattan Project.
Would have got done too quickly.
Einstein published his theory of relativity more than 40 years ago now.
I chose to sell shoes.
Louis Strauss was once a lowly shoe salesman.
No, just a shoe salesman.
Never lowly. It's so interesting. Knowing a little bit about the history of this man. Just the vibes that they're giving off right now, it's just very peculiar.
Albert.
Einstein says, I ain't trying to talk to you.
So Dr. Oppenheimer brought your attention to his past associations before you appointed him,
Yes.
and they didn't concern you.
But just then I was entirely consumed with what he must have said to Einstein to sour him on me.
See, he says that it's played as a joke, but if I remember reading things correctly, that's actually true.
I'm an American myself.
How surprising.
Is that, what's his face from the Santa Claus?
De botsing tussen een alfadeltje en een atoom vrangevonden verschillende energieën. De verbindingsopname in de relatieve translatie.
What's he saying?
Struggle with the Dutch.
This is German you have to seek out.
Heisenberg.
Right.
Walter White? Is Jesse here too?
In which causality holds, but such speculations seem to
This
us
guy's in
so
the
explicitly
James Bond
fruitless.
movie. The latest one.
Have a great day.
He's Mr. Smiley McGee. This cast is just stacked, honestly.
You must be Oppenheimer.
Yes.
I hear you want to start a school of quantum theory.
I am starting it.
Is
Next
that
door.
Josh Hartnett? Jesus Christ. The names just keep on coming.
What do you know about quantum mechanics?
I have a grasp on the basics.
Then you're doing it wrong.
You're an idiot.
Quantum mechanics says it's both. How can it be both?
It can't.
It can't. But it is. It's paradoxical, and yet it works.
Okay. I'm going to be very confused by the end of this. I can already tell.
But if that furnace cools, then gravity starts winning. It contracts.
Density increases.
Correct. Increasing gravity.
Increasing
Is that the
density.
kid from Hereditary?
What's the limit here?
I don't know. See where the math takes us. I guarantee it's somewhere no one's been before.
Me?
Yeah, you.
You shouldn't let them bring their politics in the classroom, Bobby.
I wrote that.
We had our revolution. Seriously.
What's
Keep it
one
out of the
more?
lab.
Well,
We had breakfast. What about second breakfast?
I hadn't heard you were a party member.
but I'm not.
Oh, not yet.
Frank and I are thinking of joining. Just the other day.
I support a range of causes.
They think that socialism is a bigger threat than fascism.
Not for long. Look at what they're
You're
not.
telling me they still believe that.
What are you working on?
What happens to stars when they die?
Do stars die?
Well, if they do, they'd cool, then collapse. In fact, the bigger the star, the more violent its demise. Their gravity gets so concentrated it swallows everything.
Applies to people as well.
Well, if you're going to send money to Spain, do it through the Communist Party. They can get it to the front lines.
Harry sent me with these.
To Florence Pugh? Jesus Christ. So many people in this movie.
Why limit yourself to one dogma? I like a little wiggle room. Do you always toe the party line?
I like my wiggle room too.
Oh, damn. Okay.
What's this?
Sanskrit.
You can read this?
I'm learning.
Then read it.
Read this. Read the words.
And now I am become death, destroyer of worlds.
That's what turns her on again. Okay. Florence Pugh.
I didn't expect to see you today.
Alvarez?
She just turns around and starts walking the other way.
They've done it. They've done it. Hahn and Strassman in Germany. They split the uranium nucleus.
Bombarding with neutrons.
It's a nuclear fission. They did it. They split the atom.
Amazing.
Can't be done. Very elegant.
They just did it.
There's just one problem.
Where?
Next door. Alvarez did it.
Extra neutrons boil off, which could be used to split other uranium atoms.
Chain reaction. You're thinking what I'm thinking.
You, me, every other physicist around the world have seen the news.
I'm just what? What are we all thinking?
A bomb. Oh, I wrote this movie.
A bomb.
Yeah, bad news bears.
I don't understand what you want from
I
me.
don't want anything from you.
Well, you say that and then you call.
Well, don't answer.
I'll always answer.
She's in love with an older man.
Richard, Dr. Bush, what brings you two up north?
They're the group. Is that who I think it is? It is.
Richard, you tell Ruth I'll be down in Pasadena Thursday.
There's just so many people in this goddamn movie.
Oh, Harlan, our paper, it's in print.
You've been upstaged.
By who? Oh. Yeah. Hitler.
But after Hitler invaded Russia and we became allies, these communist sympathies, do they return?
No.
Is that
On
Emily
Russia
Blunt?
did not mean a sharp break from those who held different views.
I think that's Emily Blunt back there. It is Emily Blunt.
Can you explain quantum mechanics to me? Seems baffling.
Yeah, he'll just casually explain it.
It's mostly empty space. Groupings of tiny energy waves bound together.
By what?
Forces of attraction strong enough to convince us that matter is solid. It's not my body passing through yours.
Man's using quantum mechanics for Riz.
By 36, I just told Joe I couldn't take it anymore. Quit the party. A year later, I wanted him back. He said, swell, I'll meet you on my way to Spain. Why'd he technology got Joe killed. For nothing.
Spanish Republic isn't nothing.
My husband offered both our futures to stop one fascist bullet from embedding itself in a mud bank. Now here I am. Wherever the hell this is.
It's New Mexico. Oh, damn, son.
He knocked her up. Fast work.
Can't keep a good man down.
You think the rules don't apply to the golden boy?
Brilliance makes up for a lot.
Don't alienate the only people in the world that understand what you do. One day you might need them.
The next time you're coming home from a meeting, why don't you take a look in the rearview mirror? Listen to the sounds on your phone line and stop being so goddamn naive.
Why would they care what I do?
Because you're not just self-important, you're actually...
You're like a real guy. You're not just some rando. You're a whole ass real person.
I'll talk to Lomanitz, I'll talk to the others. You don't have to worry, it's done. Lawrence.
Then welcome to the war.
After the war, Dr. Oppenheimer was the most respected scientific voice in the world.
His accomplishments spoke for themselves.
How would Borden have access to Oppenheimer's security fund?
Because somebody gave it to him.
Dr. Oppenheimer, we've already heard from Admiral Strauss that these isotopes could be useful to our enemies in the production of atomic weapons.
Congressman, you could use a shovel in making atomic weapons. Isotopes are less useful than electronic components, but more useful than a sandwich.
Made him look dumb.
Who are the uniforms?
I thought you might know.
Oh yeah, I forgot he was in this. I saw him in the trailer.
I'm Colonel Groves. This is Lieutenant Colonel Nichols.
He's from, what's the superhero movie where he goes crazy?
You're a dilettante, a womanizer, a suspected communist. Unstable, theatrical.
Yet here you are. You don't take much on trust.
Yeah, here he is. He had to meet you himself.
You're talking about turning theory into a practical weapon system faster than the Nazis.
Who have a 12-month head start.
18. Straight race, the Germans win. We've got one hope.
Which is?
Anti-Semitism.
Interesting.
All minds have to see the whole task to contribute efficiently. Poor security may
Gotta bring them all into one spot. Los Alamos.
You don't get to say no to me.
It's my job to say no to you when you're wrong.
So you have the job now?
I'm considering it.
I'm starting to see where you got your reputation.
Yeah.
My favorite response.
You being here is
Oppenheimer
offering
couldn't
him the
run a
job,
hamburger
essentially.
stand.
I couldn't. But I can run the Manhattan Project. All America's industrial might and scientific innovation connected by rail, focused on one goal, one point in space and time. And it comes together here, a secret laboratory.
Because if you built everything in one location, all those different spots, it'd be easy to figure out.
If you want security, build a town, build it fast.
But if you keep them separated and then have a spot where they can meet, it's easier to hide.
Heisenberg, Liebner, both are Bohr. What do these men have in common?
The greatest minds on atomic theory.
Yes,
Jack
Dan?
Quaid, Jesus Christ.
As much as you like.
Literally everybody.
Why would we go to the middle of nowhere for who knows how long?
Even just like getting all these scientists into one spot to get this done is an insane accomplishment. Josh Peck.
Deals won't work for the Nazis.
No, never.
What is happening?
We don't. That's why I need you.
Did I somehow miss the fact that there's 9,000 people in this movie?
How about because this is
Before
the
it
most
came out.
important fucking thing to ever happen in the history of the world? How about that?
Who's running theoretical?
I am?
That's what I was afraid of. You spread too thin.
So you take theoretical.
I'm not coming here, Robert.
Why?
You drop a bomb and it falls on the just and the unjust. I don't wish the culmination of 3 centuries of physics to be a weapon of mass destruction.
Yeah. And this is where the moral complications of what they're doing come into the film.
Is he?
I feel like that's going to be the two parts of this process, is the sheer brilliance of making it all work and getting it done, like the accomplishment that takes, and then the moral implications surrounding what that means. There we go. Back in the outfit.
Albert. Dr. Oppenheimer.
Neutrons smash into nucleus, releasing neutrons to smash into other nuclei. Criticality, a point of no return, massive explosive force. But this time, the chain reaction doesn't stop.
Oh, yeah.
It would ignite the atmosphere.
When we detonate an atomic device, we might start a chain reaction that
destroys the world.
Destroys the world.
Well, theory can only take you so far.
And if the truth is catastrophic,
then you stop and you share your findings with the Nazis.
Yeah. Facts. But then you also have to, like, deal with the question is whatever percentage you get to of, like, how likely is this to destroy the world? Is that worth continuing?
No presidential cabinet nominee has failed to be confirmed since 1925. This is just how the game is played.
It's in the bag, Lewis, so play nice. They bring in a scientist, so what?
He's concerned it's going to be Einstein.
I fought Oppenheimer in the U.S. one.
I don't think we need to go there. Isn't there someone we can call who knows what really happened?
Tell her.
Here's the amount of uranium Oak Ridge refined all of last month.
That is not a lot.
Instead of uranium or plutonium, we use hydrogen. Heavy hydrogen.
An H-bomb would be substantially worse.
Then we'll get not kilotons, but megatons.
well, since we're going to need one anyway, we get back to the business at hand.
That's fair. Either way, you need the small bomb.
Come stai? Va bene. I hear you got a little town.
Yes, come and see.
Remy Malek? Jesus Christ. Name after name after name.
Under current AEC guidelines, would you clear Dr. Oppenheimer today?
No.
Dr. Lawrence, I'd like to remind you what we talked about in Berkeley. Compartmentalization, I understand completely.
Means keep your damn mouth shut. Ooh.
I'm going to have to share a few things that General Groves told me not to. Sorry, General, I said I understood, not that I agreed. Okay.
He says F compartmentalization.
I've had a lot of secrets in my head for a long time.
Oh, he's going to see Florence Pugh.
Doesn't matter who I associate with, I don't talk about those secrets.
Every time he brings flowers and every time she throws them away.
What did you have to see her?
She had indicated a great desire to see me before we left. At that time, I couldn't, but I felt that she had to see me.
He felt he had an obligation.
Spent the night together, didn't you?
Yes.
Damn. Just staring her in the eyes.
You drop in and out of my life, and you don't have to tell me why. Now that's power.
Not that I enjoy.
When did you see her after that?
never saw her again.
Damn. Did she kill herself?
You sit there, day after day, letting them pick our lives to pieces. Why won't you fight?
Robert.
Maybe he feels as though he deserves this.
Subject met with and spent considerable time with one Jean Tatlock, communist, the record of whom is attached.
The subject being Dr. Oppenheimer.
Yes.
When Pash first heard about Lomanitz, he told the FBI he was gonna kidnap him, take him out on a boat, and interrogate him in the Russian manner.
Oh.
General Groves has placed on me a certain responsibility. And it's
Jesus
like having a child
freaking
I can't
Christ.
see.
Casey Affleck.
Frankly, I can see that there might be an argument for the commander-in-chief informing the Russians they're our allies, after all, but I don't like the idea of it going out the back door. It might not hurt to be on the lookout for it.
He's in favor of the information being passed, just not behind anyone's back.
It's a little early for a Christmas party.
Something's up. Tolman's been away.
Bongos.
Attention!
Hey guys. Niels Bohr.
Is it big enough
to end the war?
To end all war?
Not quite.
He seemed more focused on heavy water.
As a moderator?
Yes, instead of graphite.
What?
Means they're ahead.
We're ahead. And with you here to help us, Niels.
So could you give us a moment, gentlemen?
He is not staying.
We have to make the politicians understand this isn't a new weapon. It's a new world.
You know, yeah, it's crazy.
You're an American Prometheus.
Oh, I called it. He is the
Gave them
Prometheus.
the power to destroy themselves.
Sorry, Oppie, but there's a call. From San Francisco.
Your father called. I found her yesterday in the back. There was a note.
So someone killed her.
And all I got.
You don't get to commit the sin, and then have us all feel sorry for you that it had consequences. You pull yourself together.
An H-bomb is 1,000 times the power of an A-bomb.
Yeah.
Its only intended target would be the largest cities.
It's a weapon of attack with no defensive value.
Deterrence.
Deterrence.
A can of worms is being opened.
You drown in 10 feet of water or 10,000, what's the difference?
Do you understand? If we build a hydrogen bomb, the Russians will have no choice but to build their own.
It's so... There's so many angles. Don't always know the correct choice.
Down this road, Louis. With respect, we are the advisory committee. We will give them our advice.
Dr. Oppenheimer? Hi. William Borden.
Polka Dot Man? Yep. God, it's so interesting.
How was Mr. Borden able to put together such a detailed indictment? He was no longer a government employee, yet he appears to have had unlimited access to Dr. Oppenheimer's file.
Someone gave it to him.
Do you or do you not believe that Dr. Oppenheimer is a security risk?
The impact of the gadget on civilization.
Whether the means justify the ends any longer, because
Yeah. They're saying, you know,
is about to surrender.
Germany's out of it now. Should we stop building the bomb? But Japan wasn't gonna surrender.
But the Japanese fight hard.
Their defeat seems assured.
Not if you're a GI preparing to invade.
But how do we justify using this weapon on human beings?
It's a good question.
They won't fear it until they understand it, and they won't understand it until they've used it.
It's tough.
Progress?
It's tough, it's tough, it's
2
tough.
years and $1 billion worth? Batter my heart. Three-person God. What?
Oh, the Trinity test.
I hope you learned something.
It's a big explosion.
Japan's not going to hold out alone.
How could you know that? You got us into this. You and Einstein with your letter to Roosevelt saying we could build a bomb.
Against Germany.
That's not how weapons manufacture works, Sillard.
Yeah. You don't just say, we can build a weapon against these people. You say, we can build a weapon. And then how it's used is not in your hands anymore.
The firestorm in Tokyo killed 100,000 people, mostly civilians.
So many people. So many people.
A pillar of fire, 10,000 feet tall. Deadly neutron effects for a mile in all directions.
Military targets.
But there aren't any big enough.
Is there no way to demonstrate a bomb to Japan to provoke surrender?
We intend to demonstrate it in the most unambiguous terms. Twice.
We have a list of 12 cities to choose from. Sorry, 11. I've taken Kyoto off the list due to its cultural significance to the Japanese people. Also, my wife and I honeymooned there. It's a magnificent city.
Jesus Christ. Just the casualness in which he's just the fact that he can just remove a city, like the lives of thousands and thousands of people, just on a whim, because his wife likes the city. Christ. Ugh.
Everybody out.
Oh my God. I know it works, but I'm still nervous.
I'll send a message. If it's gone our way, take in the sheets. If we fire these detonators and they don't trigger a reaction, 2 years worth of plutonium will be scattered across White Sands.
A month of my salary against $10. Says it likes.
Jesus.
He'll take that bet.
What did Fermi mean by atmospheric ignition?
Oh, nothing. Don't worry about that one.
Are we saying there's a chance that when we push that button, we destroy the world?
Technically.
Chances are near zero.
Near zero.
But not actually zero.
Minutes.
The seriousness of this is not lost on the audience, I think.
Is it rubbed in?
Yeah.
I think you got it, man. Is it rubbed in? Is this just caked all over his face? He bet a month's salary on this. He's got to go out and see it.
2, 1.
Damn, the way they just cut all the sound except for them breathing. insane. It's exactly like he imagined it.
And now I am become death.
Destroyer of worlds.
The destroyer of worlds.
Crazy stuff. And they didn't blow up the world. Let's go. Good work, everybody. Back with the bongos. Only a couple people here realize exactly what it means, though.
Well, I don't know. He just said to tell you to bring in the sheets.
Oh, I don't know why that made me a little emotional.
Would the Japanese surrender if they knew what was coming?
I don't know.
Probably not, but who knows?
Anything?
It's crazy. They put him in charge of this whole thing, and then they don't even tell him.
An American airplane dropped one bomb on Hiroshima and destroyed its usefulness to the enemy. It is an atomic bomb. It is a harnessing of the basic power of the universe.
The somber reality of what they did. Oh, this is where the feet stamping was.
The world will remember this day. It's too soon to determine what the results of the bombing are.
He's already imagining it. What's this person screaming?
I just wish we had it in time to use against the Germans.
Jesus Christ. Oh. Oh my God. He's having a panic attack, pretty much, imagining the results of this and what he might have caused. A lot of people celebrating, a lot of people having to reckon with the moral implications of what they've done.
Dr. Oppenheimer, it's an honor.
Mr. President.
How's it feel to be the most famous man in the world?
Is that Gary Oldman?
Mr. President.
Just in every respect. He's realizing that you can't put the lid back on.
You think anyone in Hiroshima or Nagasaki gives a shit who built the bomb? They care who dropped it. I did.
Truman's kind of an asshole.
Crybaby back in here.
Call him a crybaby.
America and Russia may be likened to two scorpions in a bottle, each capable of killing the other, but only at the risk of his own life.
Mutually assured destruction. It's kind of the modern way that countries go about it.
How could Borden get access to Oppenheimer's FBI file? Could it have been Nichols?
No, I can't imagine him do that.
Everyone in the street, for nearly a mile around, was instantly and seriously burned.
Incinerated.
We bombed an enemy that was essentially defeated.
Robert, you have all the influence now.
If atomic weapons are to be added to the arsenals of a warring world, then the day will come when people will curse the name of Los Alamos.
Yeah. People will think, you know, if only they hadn't made it.
J. Robert Oppenheimer, Strauss fought and the U.S. won. But how would you know what Time magazine is going to write?
Henry Luce is a friend.
What was it you said about Borden? Why get caught holding the knife yourself? I'm beginning to think Borden was holding the knife for you.
Facts.
You convinced him?
Borden didn't take any convincing.
We need a systematic destruction of Oppenheimer's credibility so he can never again speak on matters of national security.
He orchestrated the whole thing just because he embarrassed him.
No audience, no reporters, no burden of proof. We're not convicted.
Just denying the clearance, yeah.
Teller's testifying this morning. That'll help.
Knowing what I know about history, very interesting how things turn out.
Yes, sir. With all due respect, I fail to see how national security prevents the prosecution from providing
Perhaps
us
we
with
are
a
in
list
need
of
of a brief recess.
Gentlemen, you have my words.
They're just railroading it.
Strauss told him that you and Ruth Tolman have been having an affair for years. He convinced Lawrence that Richard died of a broken heart.
Richard never found out.
Oppenheimer, you dog.
Why go through all this against a man who has accomplished what Dr. Oppenheimer has? Look
Yeah,
at
like
his record.
what's the point?
The purpose of this letter is to state my opinion, based upon years of study of the available classified evidence, that more probably than not, J. Robert Oppenheimer is an agent of the Soviet Union.
Is anyone ever going to tell the truth about what's happening here?
We will now hear from Dr. David Hill.
They do not want to tell the truth.
Dr. Hill, would you care to make a statement?
Ooh. This might not go well for Oppenheimer. It's very short with him.
Most of the scientists in this country would prefer to see Mr. Strauss completely out of government.
What a twist.
Because of the personal vindictiveness he demonstrated against Dr. Oppenheimer. Oppenheimer made mincemeat out of Strauss's position on the shipments of isotopes to Norway, and Strauss never forgave him this public humiliation. And Strauss was able to find a few ambitious men who also disagreed with Oppenheimer's positions and envied him.
Yep.
In a great number of cases, I have seen Dr. Oppenheimer act in a way which was, to me, exceedingly hard to understand. To this extent, I feel
That doesn't mean he's
I
a
want to see
security
the
risk,
vital
though.
interests of this country in hands which I understand better, and therefore trust more.
Thank you, Doc. Thank you.
Roundabout way of not saying yes to that question while still giving them the yes that they want.
I would not clear him today if I were on the commission.
Good. Thank you, General. That is all.
But I don't think I'd clear any of those guys.
That's all.
He's gonna keep talking.
Thank you, Jim.
Yeah, you punk ass bitch. He's still a gang. He's still part of it.
He was interrogated by a prosecutor who used all the tricks of a rather ingenious legal background.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Who was this?
Sorry?
Who was this?
Roger Roth.
This is Oppenheimer.
This is like a systematic teardown. I like the way that both of these trials are occurring at the same time.
It's just it was all so very long ago, Mr. Robb, wasn't it?
Not really.
Long enough to have
Did
forgotten.
you return the card or rip it up?
The card whose existence I've forgotten?
Your Communist Party membership card.
Haven't the slightest idea.
Let's go.
I left the party 16 years ago.
But
17 years ago. My mistake.
But you said...
Sorry, 18.
Oh, she's so sassy.
Do you understand what I'm getting at?
I do.
And why don't you answer it that
Because
way?
I don't like your phrase, having anything to do with the Communist Party, because Robert never had anything to do with the Communist Party as such.
Intellectual communist and you're plain old regular commie.
Well, I couldn't answer that one.
I couldn't either.
That guy. She got a chuckle out of him.
You certainly can't prove that I gave the file to Borden.
We're not in court, sir. There's no burden of proof.
Right, they're not convicting.
They're just denying.
Just denying.
Ha you rat bastard. Let's go.
I don't know what Oppenheimer said to him that day, but Einstein wouldn't even meet my eye.
He has been entirely consumed by it.
Oppenheimer wanted to own the atomic bomb. He wanted to be the man who moved the Earth. He talks about putting the nuclear genie back in the bottle. Well, I'm here to tell you that I know.
You can't put it back in the bottle.
220,000 dead at least. Yes. Any moral scruples about that?
Obviously.
You supported the dropping of the atom bomb on Japan, didn't you?
Jesus Christ, this is
Well, you helped pick
so...
the target, didn't you?
I did my job. I was not in a policy.
Oh my, I don't even know what to say.
Well, then you would have built the H-bomb too, wouldn't you?
I could.
I didn't ask you that, Doctor. And the GAC report...
If we did it, they would have to do it. Our efforts would only fuel their efforts just as it had with the atomic bomb.
Just as it had with the atomic bomb, exactly.
No moral scruples in 1945, plenty in 1949.
Yeah. Because he realized the significance of what he did.
When did your strong moral convictions develop with respect to the hydrogen bomb?
As soon as it was used.
When it became clear to me that we would tend to use any weapon we had.
He should be thanking me.
Well, he's not.
We have voted 2-1 to deny the renewal of
I
your
bet that old guy voted to approve.
Don't take out the sheets.
Oof. Don't take in the sheets.
Well, there were a couple of unexpected holdouts.
This is the only part that I knew, just from history,
Yeah.
that he was the first in a long time to be denied.
Led by the junior senator from Massachusetts. Young guy trying to make a name for himself. Didn't like what you did to Oppenheimer.
What's his name?
Kennedy. John F. Kennedy.
JFK.
Did you think that if you let them tar and feather you, then the world would forgive you?
A little bit. He probably considered it his punishment for everything he did.
Maybe they should just invite Oppenheimer instead.
Maybe they will.
I was just about to say that.
He turned the scientists against me one by one, starting with Einstein. I told you about that. Einstein by the pond.
Since nobody really knows what they said to each other that day, is it possible they didn't talk about you at all? Is it possible they spoke about something more important?
Oh. Oh. God, that's so satisfying.
It will be for them.
Spit in his face. Yeah, she says, "You a bitch, I ain't touching your hand."
Albert, when I came to you with those calculations, we thought we might start a chain reaction that
Every drop of water is like a bomb.
Destroy the entire world. I believe we did.
I mean, he's not wrong. He is not wrong. You can't put the genie back in the bottle. Oh my God. Ugh. That is daunting. Like, that's just such a daunting prospect. Okay, so that was Oppenheimer, and it was very good. I can't imagine the theater experience of this. Is probably insane in the theaters to go. Like, say you bought tickets to both Barbie and Oppenheimer. Like, I wonder which one you watch first. Okay, here's how I think it probably went. I imagine people bought their ticket for Oppenheimer. And they picked the earlier showing for Oppenheimer. And then after that went to Barbie, because they're probably thinking, you know, this is before they've seen the movies. They're probably thinking, you know, Oppenheimer is going to be this 3.5 hour, you know, 3 hour biopic, kind of, about the atomic bomb and like the seriousness of that task. And it's probably going to be a thing that makes you think about life. and then we're going to go see Barbie, this fun, lighthearted take on you know, what if Barbie became real? You know, and they're probably thinking Barbie would be a nice palate cleanser, and only to realize that like both of those movies leave you thinking about like the seriousness of life, and where Barbie makes you appreciate life in the sense of like, wow, humanity is beautiful. And having a soul and being a person and all of the positives and negatives that come along with that is beautiful, and it is worth whatever else is happening. And then Oppenheimer comes in and makes you think about humanity in a way of like, oh, we're fucked. Like, we started something that is not gonna stop until the world is done, and that's insane. Like, oh my God, this movie was like multiple movies in one. Like, I feel like you could have made 2 whole movies based on just the contents of this one, right? Like, you could have made an entire movie about, you know, the creation of the atomic bomb and the necessity of it and the task itself, like all the work they put into it. You could have made that its own movie, and, you know, culminated with the Trinity test, or culminated with the bombs dropping on Hiroshima. And then you could have made a second movie based on like the trial, the renewing of his clearance and Strauss and everything. Like, you could have made that its own movie, but putting the 2 together is such an interesting choice, because it just brings up so many like moral questions, right? Because they're interrogating him throughout the whole thing of like, should this man have any input on national security? Like, why was he so for the creation of the bomb before, and then now he is not for the creation of like the H bomb? Like, what changed? And they're trying to pin it on like communist sympathies and things like that, when in reality the reason is because of the moral implications of what he had done. Right? Like he simultaneously is like fully aware that he needed to make the atomic bomb, and that he also shouldn't have made the atomic bomb. And it's crazy. Oh, it's crazy. So like, dude, like, if you look at like from the historical perspective, the creation of the atomic bomb is so interesting because simultaneously it needed to happen, but in a grander scale, like it shouldn't have happened because towards the end of World War II, right? I mean, they're busy making the atomic bomb, like trying to make it happen, and then Germany is bowing out of the war. Japan is still fighting. There has been the argument, and they breached the argument in this movie of like, did we use this bomb on an enemy that was essentially already beaten? And almost, like, kind of, yes. Like, Japan itself did not have much longer that they could have gone. But there was a significant cultural understanding that I feel like they didn't really touch on completely in this, and that is that the Japanese people, at least the ones in charge of fighting in the war, they were not going to surrender. Like, that wasn't a situation where they would do that. The Japanese would sooner take their own lives than surrender to the Americans, or to any other people in that regard. So the question became like, do we use the atomic bombs on them? And straight up, like Graves said, he's like, we're gonna use one to show them the power of this bomb, and then we're gonna use the second one to let them know that we can do it and keep doing it until they surrender. Obviously the Japanese are not gonna know that we only have two at the moment, but that was the idea. Is like, we're not gonna wait. We're not gonna continue sending ground troops to go in and just continue fighting until eventually, like, due to attrition, like, Japanese will run out of troops and eventually they will surrender. Like, we're not gonna take that risk, because I think I read somewhere that if they had continued the way that the war had been going and not dropped the atomic bombs, that it could have potentially cost, what was it? I forget. It was like 100,000 to 1 million more American lives if they had continued to just like fight a ground war against them. And it was, I think it was like 100,000 or something like that, not 1 million. But the question became like, is it like, which option do we choose? Do we choose the 100,000 American lives that could still die, or do we choose the 100,000 Japanese lives? And I don't know if you can make a moral argument to which one of those is a better choice, but in terms of national security, you can absolutely make that argument. The people in charge of the national security, that is their job, to make that argument that, in their opinion, the American lives were more important. Like, neither rulers of either country were going to decide, yeah, the other country, their people's lives are more important than our lives. Like, that just wasn't going to happen. And so they made the decision that they're going to drop the bombs and they're going to end this war, so that they don't have to lose more American lives. And that, like, simultaneously, right? Like, simultaneously, it needed to happen. The development of the atomic bomb needed to happen. And we spend the most part of it developing it because it was supposed to be used against Germany, right? And that's the main catalyst of why it needed to happen, is because if the Americans don't build it, Germany will. Now, we got lucky that they took a wrong turn, obviously, but that was like, I think that was Oppenheimer's main argument early on, is like, if we don't make it, they will. And if they make it, they will use it on American lives. We can't have that. And so Oppenheimer's like, okay, I'll do it because it needs to be done. And then it transitioned to, you know, him thinking about, like, okay, if we're making it and Germany's making it, Russia's gonna make it, all these people eventually will make atomic bombs. Like, he's thinking long term. And it shifted to be, we have to be the ones to make it and use it, because the only way people are gonna know the effects of these things is if it gets used, right? Like, you don't know the consequences of the action until the action has been taken. You know, they say it however many times in the movie, theory can only take you so far. And, you know, like, it's like, you know, if you find a gun on the ground, you don't point it at your friend and shoot them in the face, right? You know you don't do that because you're aware that when you pull that trigger, it's gonna kill your friend. Like, you're aware of what happens when that gets used. And so Oppenheimer's argument is like no one is gonna be aware of what these bombs will do to people unless one is used. And he struggles throughout the film of, like, the moral qualms of what he believes has to be done with, you know, the reality of that situation, right? Like, I think most historians, and, like, I think most people, and certainly most historians, would agree that the creation of the atomic bomb was a necessity at the time, and the usage of the atomic bomb was a necessity. And then you can also, like that is that I think most historians would agree with that. Separately, you can look at the situation and be like, damn, like 200,000 Japanese civilians dead. Not even just not Japanese military targets, Japanese civilians. That in itself is a whole separate argument about, like, was this the right thing to do? Tactically, yes. Morally, probably not. Right? And that's and it's not even talking about, like, the ending of the movie where he thinks about the grander term scale, like grander scale, like, consequences. This is just, like, immediate consequences. Like, morally, was it the correct decision? Probably not. You know, that's 200,000 Japanese civilians dead in you know, days. You know, probably 100,000 dead on the day of, more dead after. Like, the atomic bomb was so traumatic to the Japanese people that it, you know, this might sound like I'm making light of it, but I'm not. It literally spawned Godzilla. like, I don't know. I don't know if people are aware of that. Like, I think people might see like the Godzilla movies and be like, "Oh, cool! Like a big monster, like big monster fights other big monsters." Like, they might just see it as like a monster movie and aren't familiar with like the origins of Godzilla. Like, Godzilla started in Japan. It was the Japanese story of this monster that destroys the city. What some people might not understand is Godzilla was, from its creation, a metaphor for the atomic bomb, right? Like, the Japanese people were so traumatized by not just like the initial act of dropping the atomic bomb, but everything that it caused afterwards, that their most iconic imagery of a monster, the most horrific thing that they can like conjure into their media, is a metaphor for what the Americans did. And it's like, it's baffling. like if the people making the decision like had the foresight of like what that means, I don't know if they would do it. But it's so tough, because like you can, obviously killing civilians is bad. Like, that is in war today. If you were to drop a bomb on civilians, you would be considered like war criminals, essentially. And like, I mean, could you consider the like Hiroshima and Nagasaki to be war crimes? Like, that's tough. I mean, but I mean, they even make the argument that like there aren't any military targets that are big enough. Like, they had to pick something big enough with enough people to get the message across of like, yo, you need to chill, like, you need to stop, the war is over. But also, like, choose places that weren't too important. I don't know. Like, they weren't going to drop it on Tokyo, because Tokyo is like the capital city, and it's so densely packed. Like, the amount of casualties would be insane. And they didn't want to drop it on Kyoto because of the cultural significance to the Japanese people. I think that was probably the more important reason that the man said. But then he also just tossed in like, also, like, my wife and I vacationed there once. It's a beautiful city. And it's like the casualness in which he just tossed that out there is horrifying. Because I don't know how many people were in Kyoto. Like, if you think about like all the people that lived there at the time, all their descendants, every accomplishment they've ever made, every personal memory they've ever had with a loved one, every second of their life, and all their descendants' lives could have been wiped away in an instant. Like, because but wasn't. Like, all of their lives were saved on a whim from this random guy. Like, it's so dark to think about, like, that it could have been any other city. It could have been anywhere. And the fact that it wasn't came down to one man and his wife having a vacation there, and just the fact that he just like said that so casually and so callously as like, oh yeah, whatever. Like, like, that man was not like, he simultaneously was like, he understood the significance of what they were going to do, but also didn't understand the significance of like, you're killing so many people. Like, how are you not more distraught by this? It's just, it was like, it's crazy. So I don't know, like, as someone who has done a decent amount of reading up on the history of the war and just everything that was going on, like, I believe I'm of the opinion that it needed to happen. Like, the development of the atomic bomb was an unfortunate necessity. And it is simultaneously something that needed to happen and a great accomplishment, but also a horrifying act. Like, it is horrifying that had to happen. And that's something that Oppenheimer, like, that's his whole experience during the film, is understanding that it needs to happen, but then simultaneously reckoning with the consequences of his actions. Like the scene, throughout the film they play the sound of those people's feet stamping on the bleachers, and the scene where it happens, where all these people are like cheering him on. Like, it's not just like, hey, like, we did it. They're like very, very much cheering him. Like, he is the father of the atomic bomb. If it wasn't for him, this probably wouldn't have happened. And they are cheering him on, and like and the behind him starts to vibrate, and then there's the bright blazing sun, essentially, and he starts to see like certain people get melted, like this lady's face is melting, and then they're all gone in an instant, because they were all eviscerated by an atomic bomb. And then they're all back, and he like steps in a charred body, and it's like he's essentially having like a panic attack and being bombarded with the imagery of what would have happened to the Japanese people. And so he's having to deal with the moral issue of like, what did I do? like the moral complications of like, this is what we did to the Japanese people, while also being like celebrated as a war hero, essentially. And he's struggling to find a balance of what that means for the future. And it's just insane, because then you like mix in the trials and everything, and it's just, oh my god, it's insane. It's insane. Like that, and that's just the first part of the movie. That's just the first part of the movie. And then you get to the second half of the movie, where it's Strauss's trial and the conclusion of Oppenheimer's trial, and you see Oppenheimer essentially just being railroaded by the opposition on behalf of Strauss. And you truly realize like like he was a tool to be used by people above him, as well as just like an easy scapegoat, right? Like it's much easier for the United States government and people who wanted to become prominent members of the United States government to throw him under the bus. It's so much easier for them to do that and put the blame and the moral blame on him, rather than like as a country be like, hey yo, we shouldn't have done that. It's so much easier to do that than just to like be like, hey, we're sorry, like, our bad. Like, there's a similar conversation that happens with like slavery in the United States. Like, for so long the United States government was not willing to be like, hey guys, we fucked up, like, as a country, we did a bad thing, sorry. And instead there would be blame placed on like individuals and all these different things, and a lot of people still don't want to be like, hey, that was a bad thing that we did and it shouldn't have happened. And so it was much easier for the people in this movie to essentially be like, hey, Oppenheimer, like, you're being shut out going forward. Like, it's not like them directly being like, hey, the atomic bomb was a mistake, but by shutting out the father of the atomic bomb, it is kind of like metaphorically like putting it behind you and sweeping it under the rug, right? And so then they can move forward with the H bomb and you know, clean slate essentially, where what is it? Teller was like, I didn't agree with a lot of the things he did, and his reasoning for doing it was not always clear to me, and I would prefer the national security be in the hands of someone I understand more. Essentially, a roundabout way of being like, I would prefer to be making the decisions and have a greater input on the decisions being made. Which Rami Malek's character calls out later. He's like, you know, some opportunistic scientist who were jealous of Oppenheimer, and it just shows Teller, and it's like, oh, perfect. But yeah, it's so crazy, the second half, with essentially the takedown of Strauss, where everything is laid bare of like what he did and why, right? Like he orchestrated all of this because he felt personally slighted by Oppenheimer, and that was the only part that I knew, like historically. Well, obviously I knew about the dropping of the atomic bomb and all that, and like the necessity of creating it, but for the trial and like certain political figures, that was the only thing I knew, is that Strauss was denied his appointment. I forgot where I read it too. I think it was in one of my college courses where we were I think we were going over just like the time period immediately after, and the trial was a big deal, obviously. So I remember reading about him being denied, you know, first one in a while to be denied. You know, usually they don't get denied. And so that was the only part that I knew, is that he didn't gain the approval of the board or Senate or whoever was voting on it. I didn't know all of the details regarding like his personal hatred of Oppenheimer and like how deeply vindictive of a man he was. Like and if you go back and watch it, you probably like pick up on certain things. Like when before he even talks to Einstein at the beginning of the movie, he's like, oh, who would have thought Strauss was a lowly shoe salesman? And Strauss, like, you can see in his face that he's like very offended by that, and he's like, never lowly, like just a salesman. And it's very clear that he was a man that deeply cared about his own reputation and his own ego. And so being publicly embarrassed by Oppenheimer was not something he was going to take lightly. And then also having, like, essentially being ignored by Einstein, you know, the greatest scientific mind of all time, a lot of people will still say. Oppenheimer says the greatest of his time. But he essentially walks right past him, and Strauss, so consumed with his own ego, thinks that it's something that Oppenheimer said to sour him against him, but in reality it had nothing to do with him. Nothing at all. They weren't talking about him in the slightest. But he's just such a self-centered man that he took it as like a personal slight against him from Oppenheimer. And it's crazy. And then you see all of it come together at the end where Alden Ehrenreich's character, I forgot his name, but Han Solo is essentially like throws it in his face and is like, maybe they were talking about something more important. It's like, god damn, dude. Like, it's like so satisfying. It was so satisfying to watch that be thrown back in his face. Because they were talking about something more important, and that is the long-term implications of what Oppenheimer did, right? Oppenheimer, not only in this film and in real life, I assume, he not only had to deal with the short-term moral quandaries of what this meant, but he also had to deal with the long-term implications of the creation of the atomic bomb. And so he asks Einstein, like, you know, we brought up the possibility that we might have ended the world, and he's like, I think we did. And then you see the montage of missiles launching and then the atmosphere igniting, and it's essentially him being like, the act of creating the atomic bomb more than likely started a chain reaction of events where, you know, I mean, he talks about, they say it various times. I mean, you'd have to, I don't know why I'm repeating it, but you'd have to be an idiot to not pay attention to the film. You know, where throughout the film he's like, if we're doing it, they'll have to do it. Like, if you're a government and you want to continue to be a major government, a major world presence, like, you cannot afford not to make these weapons. Like, if the other big countries, especially ones that you might not be super good friends with, if they're all making these weapons, like, you have to. You can't afford not to. Like if tomorrow it came out in the news that North Korea was creating some super weapon, like a weapon far beyond anything anyone's ever conceived, right? Like, bigger than the atomic bomb, bigger than the H-bomb. Like, if it came out that they were like creating a ray gun that would destroy the entire United States, it, like, every other country in the world would be like, we have to make that as well. Like, we cannot be the ones that don't have this weapon, because when it comes to mutually assured destruction, it only works if both sides have the gun. Right? It only works if both scorpions have a stinger. If only one scorpion's got the stinger, the other one dies. Like, so Oppenheimer he knew. He's like, if we're making it, they have to make it. If they're making it, we have to make it. And the ego of men is always going to lead to a situation, you know, the ego of men and the advancement of technology is always going to lead to situations where newer and better weapons are going to be made, right? You gotta one up to have the advantage, right? Every country has to be the one that has the edge over everyone else. And so as countries continue to try and gain the advantage and make weapons and all these things, other countries will make them. And it'll just be this constant thing of everybody making weapons. And then Oppenheimer brings up the thought process of, you know, he truly developed, you know, in opposition to all these weapons when he realized that human beings have the tendency to use every weapon that they make. It is extremely rare for humanity to make a weapon and not use it. And I think I agree. Like, eventually there will be a conflict that is so severe and so dramatic and so horrifying that it will cause certain countries to use these weapons. And when that happens, it's tough, like, because you would hope that there would be individuals who are able to de-escalate that situation and calm it down, but the cynical mind tells you that that's not how it's going to work, and that everybody that has them will use them. You know, mutually assured destruction will occur, and it could potentially be the end of humanity, the end of the world. And Oppenheimer, that's what he's imagining at the end, is like, I started something that eventually will cause the end of humanity. And that's just like, oh, it's just insane. It's insane to think about, like the horrifying end like of humanity. Like, we might have done something that ends our species. And it's just like a daunting thing to think about. So like, even just the things that this maybe the things that this movie makes you think about alone are enough to make this like a 10 out of 10 film for me. Like, this was so good. And then you factor in all the acting performances. Like, I don't know how Christopher Nolan does it. He got 1,000 people in this movie. Like, there were so many people in this movie that, not necessarily that you wouldn't expect, but like also yeah that you wouldn't expect. Like Joshua Peck is in this movie, Jack Quaid, Casey Affleck, Matt Damon, you know, obviously Cillian Murphy, so many people. Like every single scientist was played by like a big actor. Like Emily Blunt, Florence Pugh, just like huge mega name actors, some of which are only in it for a couple scenes. Everyone seemingly bringing their like S tier acting game, just crushing every there wasn't a single bad performance in this movie. Like, everyone just crushed it. Like, the acting was so good. The cinematography, incredible. The music, the score, I think it was Ludwig Göransson, the guy who did The Mandalorian. He did this, I think. Insane, like, so good. And then you talk about just the visuals of like the explosions and you know, from the beginning of the movie where it's like Oppenheimer trying to like mentally see like and imagine fission and just the atoms of the universe breaking apart. And it's like, even just how they did that, I don't know how they did that, it's insane. And then to the imagery of the Trinity test, like when they actually detonated it and tested it, like not even a full-size atomic bomb, just like a test. The Trinity test, for those aware, it was not a full-sized atomic bomb. It was just a test. And it was still insane. Like, I'm using that word a lot, but like, I don't know how else to describe how good this movie was. I think this is probably movie of the year. It didn't make me cry like Barbie did, but this was really good. It was really good. I liked this movie a lot. Like, quite a bit. It's very interesting that I watched this movie while also watching Monarch Legacy of Monsters, because that's a Godzilla show. And so it's just, and I think episode 3 they test the atomic bomb on Godzilla. You know, they try and kill Godzilla with an atomic bomb and it doesn't work. It's just funny coincidence that I happen to be watching a metaphorical, you know, the succession of this metaphorical story, right? You know, the Godzilla spawned this show. Like, the popularity of Godzilla spawned this spin-off show about Godzilla and all these other monsters. And now I'm watching a movie about the historical events that caused the creation of Godzilla. And it's just, oh my god, it's insane. This movie should win so many awards if it hasn't already. Just astoundingly good. Astoundingly good. I don't know what else to say. I feel like I've been talking for a while, probably like half hour, 35. Ooh, I've been talking for a while now. Just about like the moral complications of the story, of like what needed to be done, but also like the moral fallout of those decisions, and then just the sheer brilliance of the film in general. Like, I feel like there were definitely moments, large moments, probably large moments in this reaction where I'm literally just like staring at the screen. Usually I feel like I'm pretty good about like making sure that I'm having some commentary and like saying things so that my video is still considered fair use. But there were definitely times during this film where I was like, literally just watching it, like so engaged that I was just like forgot to say stuff. Like, oh man, this movie was so good. It was so good. So good. I don't know if I like this one more than Barbie. I think both Barbie and this movie are at the same level for me. Like, I think from a technical filmmaking standpoint, this might be the better film. Maybe, I don't know, because it's completely different vibes. Like they're entirely different beasts. If we're being honest, like I don't know. Like, I would say maybe like this is technically a more well-made film than Barbie, but Barbie made me feel things. And if you know me, or if you've been around the channel for a while, you know that I will pretty much always give the edge to something that will make me feel emotions, because it's not super common for me, at least in real life, to feel emotions. I feel like I cry all the time on this channel, though. Barbie made me cry. Barbie made me think about the depths of humanity and feel grateful to be alive. This movie made me feel like, oh, like we're screwed. like humanity's over, man. So I think in terms of like, if I were to rank the movies from like my favorite or best or number one, not necessarily my favorite, not necessarily best, but a combination of the two, I think I'd put Barbie just above Oppenheimer. Like, this was very good. Very, very good. Very well made. And I don't know if I ever want to watch it again. If that makes sense. This feels like a movie where, like, you watch it once and you fervently pay attention the whole entire time. Like, you are locked in from the get-go to every single second of this film. And you take everything in. Like, this is not a movie you just casually watch and, like, somewhat pay attention to. Like, there's other movies and shows where, you know, you can maybe put it on in the background, or this is like a movie you could watch on TV and maybe glance at your phone every once in a while, answer some texts. This movie is like a movie that you're like zoned in the whole time. On your first watch, you're zoned in, and you remember every detail. This is not a movie where I will forget many details of this movie. But at the same time, it's probably going to be a movie I only watch once. You know, I don't imagine myself routinely rewatching this film. I could probably rewatch Barbie. I could definitely rewatch Barbie many times. I don't know if I could bring myself to, like, be emotionally exhausted at the end of this movie again, because I don't think I could just casually watch this movie. Like, I wouldn't be able to just toss it on in the background, because it is so serious that it demands your attention for 3 hours. Like, it is, oh man, that sounds like a negative. That might sound, again, I want to make it clear, that might sound like I'm giving that, you know, as a negative or a con to this movie. It is not. That is very much a positive. Like, you know, there are certain movies where you're like, I loved that, and also I'm never watching it again. This might be one of those films. Honestly, insane how good this was. But I think that's all I have to say. You know, I've been recording for 3 hours and 40 minutes at this point, so I'm gonna end my thoughts there. I would love to hear all your opinions down in the comments below. What did you guys think? When did you watch this movie? Did you watch it in theaters when it came out? Did you watch it on the same day as Barbie? Or did you wait until it came to, you know, a streaming service or video on demand or whatever? I think this is actually going back to IMAX, so I might go to the theater again. I don't know when it's coming back into IMAX, but I might go to the theater again to watch this in IMAX. You know, after I just said I'm never watching this movie again, I think I might go just to experience the theatrical experience of this. You know, it's, what's the date today? January 8th. This movie came out. When did this movie come out, technically? I don't even remember. I'll have to check to see when it comes back to IMAX. Because I literally just read an article the other day about how this movie and another movie are coming to IMAX again. But yeah, literally after I just said I'm never watching this movie again, I'm probably going to watch it again in IMAX because I need to experience that feeling. I need the big screen for that. That's going to be insane. Yes, sorry. When did you watch Oppenheimer? Was it with Barbie in theaters? Did you wait? Very curious. How do you feel about all the questions that are raised in this film about, you know, the moral complications of the issue, but also the possible future end of the world? I don't know. You know, leave all your thoughts in the comments below. Otherwise, if you enjoyed my reaction, please leave a like on the video. It means a lot to me. Helps my videos get seen more. If you're new here, hit subscribe, ring the bell so you're notified when I upload. And then if you want to see the full-length reaction, consider supporting me on Patreon or join YouTube memberships. Those are both down below. You just sync up your own copy of the movie and you can watch along with me. Again, I'm watching this on Amazon Prime just because that's where I bought it. But yeah, I assume you can watch it anywhere. I assume it's the same version. So if that interests you at all, definitely leave your support. Other than that, I think that's all I gotta say. Thank you for watching, and I will catch you guys next time.